Obviously incredible being world number one. Played her a few weeks ago and lost, and I told myself that I felt like I could win the match and to be able to put it in.
She saved 6 match points and dethroned the world number one.
Obviously incredible being world number one. Played her a few weeks ago and lost, and I told myself that I felt like I could win the match and to be able.
The Hailey Baptiste story nobody saw coming.
I simply have no words. Hailey Baptiste saved not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 match points to pull off what—
Stop what you are doing right now. Put the phone down, close the laptop, and pay attention, because what just happened inside the Caja Mágica in Madrid, Spain, is the kind of moment that 10 years from now people are going to be talking about where they were when they saw it.
Hey guys, incredible battle today. Super happy to get the win. My first semi-final 1000, a little bit of a revenge tour, facing Mirror tomorrow.
Tuesday night, April 28th, 2026, a 24-year-old girl from Washington, D.C. walked onto one of the most famous clay courts in professional tennis, stared down the most dominant force in women's tennis, survived 6 match points, and pulled off one of the greatest upsets in recent WTA memory.
Hailey Baptiste has impressed me throughout 2026 thus far, but her win today over Belinda Bencic in Madrid just might take the cake. Baptiste defeated the 11 seed 6-1-6.
Hailey Baptiste, world number 32, defeated world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka 2-6, 6-2, 7-6 in the tiebreak. And the way she did it? Absolutely cinematic. Welcome back to Champions Tennisistics, the channel where the drama never sleeps and the tennis always delivers. Today we are going all in on Hailey Baptiste, who she is, where she came from, exactly how she pulled this off, what Sabalenka said about it, and what it means for the rest of this clay season heading straight into Roland Garros. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for every single second of this one. Let's set the scene properly. The Mutua Madrid Open.
Let's talk about this match that just ended between Hailey Baptiste and Sabalenka. Hailey Baptiste saved 6 match points to defeat Sabalenka. Not only was I watching a fun match, but I was watching Hailey's demeanor the whole time.
One of the most prestigious WTA 1000 events on the entire calendar, held at altitude in the Spanish capital where the red clay plays differently than anywhere else on Earth. The thin air makes the ball fly a little faster, the bounce a little higher, and the conditions a little harder to control, which matters enormously when we are talking about Aryna Sabalenka, a woman who has spent most of 2026 absolutely destroying everyone in her path. Coming into Tuesday night's quarterfinal, Sabalenka was riding a 15-match winning streak, matching one of the best runs of her career. She had won Indian Wells. She had won Miami. She was the defending champion in Madrid, a 3-time winner at this very tournament.
Hailey Baptiste did what? She saved 6 match points and took down world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka in Madrid. On April 28th, the 24-year-old American faced the
She had just won 4 consecutive Grand Slam singles titles across 2 years. She was, by every conceivable metric, the most complete and dangerous player on tour. And the experts? They gave Hailey Baptiste basically no chance. The predictions were unanimous: Sabalenka in straight sets. Move along, nothing to see here. Because just a few weeks earlier, at the Miami Open quarterfinals in March, Sabalenka had beaten Baptiste comfortably 6-4, 6-4. It wasn't close. It wasn't dramatic. Sabalenka had been surgical, denying Baptiste any real foothold in the match, and the scoreline made it look easier than it probably even felt. So when the Madrid draw paired them together again in the quarters, everyone assumed it would be a repeat performance. After all, you don't get to be world number 1 by losing twice in a row to the same player in the same month. Except nobody told Hailey Baptiste that. Because here is the thing about Hailey Baptiste that the casual tennis fan might not know yet, and after this week, trust me, everyone is going to know it. This young woman has been quietly building something special for a long, long time. She grew up in Washington, D.C., daughter of Haitian-American parents Sherry and Quasim Baptiste, practically born on the courts of the Rock Creek Park Tennis Center. She came up through the Washington Tennis and Education Foundation, grinding through community programs, earning every single step of her development the hard way. And as a little girl watching tennis, she didn't watch just anyone. She watched Venus and Serena Williams play for the Washington Castles in the World Team Tennis League. She literally grew up looking at the Williams sisters as her North Star. That context matters. Because when people ask where the fire comes from, where the mental toughness comes from, the answer starts right there on those DC courts. Baptiste didn't arrive on the professional tour as some hyped junior phenom handed wildcards and spotlight from day one. She grinded. At 17 years old, she upset Madison Keys in her very first WTA main draw match. 17. First match. Against a player who would go on to win a Grand Slam. That told you something about what this girl had inside her. But then the journey became what most tours journeys become for talented young players. Inconsistent, stop and start, full of promise, and then full of heartbreak. Qualifiers, challengers, tour-level losses in the early rounds. The kind of losses that, as anyone who has followed professional sports knows, either build a champion or break a spirit. They built Hailey Baptiste. In 2025, she started cracking the code in bigger ways. She reached the 4th round of Roland Garros. She made the 3rd round at Wimbledon. She broke into the top 50 for the first time in her career, peaking at number 47 in August of that year. These weren't flukes. These were milestones earned through a level of consistency and improvement that suggested this was a player on a genuine upward trajectory, not just someone having a hot week. Going into 2026, she kept accelerating. At the Australian Open in January, she reached the 3rd round. She had a brilliant run in Abu Dhabi, making the semifinals of a WTA 500 event. And then at the Miami Open, she reached her first ever WTA 1000 quarterfinal, beating 3 top 30 players in a single week to get there, before losing to Sabalenka in that Miami quarterfinal that, as it turned out, was about to become the most important loss of her career. The records that fell alongside the scoreline are the kind that give you goosebumps. Baptiste became only the 2nd American to defeat the world number 1 at the Madrid Open, after Serena Williams beat Victoria Azarenka in the 2012 final. She became the lowest-ranked player, world number 32, to produce a comeback win against the world number 1 on clay in the last 40 years. She became just the 2nd player to beat Sabalenka from match points down since Iga Swiatek did it in the 2024 Madrid final. She was also the first player all season to break Sabalenka 6 times. These are not just numbers. These are chapters in a story that is being written in real time. Sabalenka, for her part, handled the defeat with the grace of a champion even in a painful moment. In her post-match press conference, she said the loss stung but acknowledged there were no excuses. It was a tough match. She played great. I played great. I think I had some opportunities in the 3rd set, and I felt like I was maybe a little bit rushing the points there. But it's okay. I guess sometimes you have to learn, take the best from this week, and move on. On Instagram later that night she posted, "Not the ending I wanted, but proud of the work I put in. We're just getting started with clay season." And that is the critical line right there. Sabalenka dropping a loss in Madrid is devastating for her tournament, but it is absolutely not the end of the story. Roland Garros is coming. The big one. The one that has defined the entire clay season every single year. But we will come back to that. First, let's talk about the Madrid draw more broadly, because Baptiste's run was not some Cinderella story built on one spectacular night. Before she even got to Sabalenka, this girl had already beaten world number 8 Jasmine Paolini and world number 11 Belinda Bencic. Against Bencic in the round of 16, she had actually herself faced match points in the 2nd set, and saved those too, before winning in 3 sets. She came into the Sabalenka quarterfinal having already proved she was capable of beating elite players at altitude on clay. And this wasn't just her 9th win at a WTA 1000 event in 2026. It was a career-high number at this level of competition. The tournament run she was putting together in Madrid was the best week of tennis of her professional life. And she was doing it with a quiet, methodical ferocity that was becoming impossible to ignore. When Baptiste stepped up to face Sabalenka, she wasn't some trembling underdog hoping for a miracle. She was a player who had already beaten 2 top 10 players that week, who had studied her opponent obsessively since their Miami match, and who was playing with the kind of tactical intelligence that coaches spend years trying to install into their students. She mixed drop shots. She approached the net. She changed the pace at critical moments. She made Sabalenka play tennis that was uncomfortable, tennis that pulled the world number 1 out of the rhythmic power game that has made her so dominant. And when Sabalenka tried to disrupt Baptiste right back with her own drop shots and changes of direction in the 2nd set, it didn't work. The tennis world reacted immediately and emotionally. Jessica Pegula and Frances Tiafoe, both elite American players who know exactly what it takes to compete at this level, celebrated on social media with a wave of enthusiasm that captured the collective disbelief and pride across the tennis community. Chris Evert, who has seen more great tennis moments than almost any living person on earth, was talking about this match. The reaction was not just, "Wow, what an upset." The reaction was the tennis community recognizing that something real and lasting had just announced itself in Madrid. The broader picture of this Madrid tournament is worth addressing too, because Hailey Baptiste was not the only chaos agent at Caja Mágica this week. The top 3 WTA seeds all fell before the semifinals. Coco Gauff went out. Aryna Sabalenka, who had been Sabalenka's closest challenger for the #1 ranking, also exited earlier than expected. The draw that everyone assumed would deliver another Sabalenka title run turned into a full-scale earthquake of upsets, with the Madrid altitude and the slow, clay-humbling players left and right. But even in that context, even with all the chaos, nobody saw Baptiste beating Sabalenka as something in the realm of possibility. That is what makes it so remarkable. The tennis world reacted immediately and emotionally. Jessica Pegula and Frances Tiafoe, both elite American players who know exactly what it takes to compete at this level.
Where I came from, never in my dreams or my parents' dreams did they think I was going to be a professional tennis player. It's just not something that anybody in my family
celebrated on social media with a wave of enthusiasm that captured the collective disbelief and pride across the tennis community. Chris Evert, who has seen more great tennis moments than almost any living person on earth, was talking about this match. The reaction was not just, "Wow, what an upset." The reaction was the tennis community recognizing that something real and lasting had just announced itself in Madrid. The broader picture of this Madrid tournament is worth addressing too, because Hailey Baptiste was not the only chaos agent at Caja Mágica this week. The top 3 WTA seeds all fell before the semifinals. Coco Gauff went out. Aryna Sabalenka, who had been Sabalenka's closest challenger for the #1 ranking, also exited earlier than expected. The draw that everyone assumed would deliver another Sabalenka title run turned into a full-scale earthquake of upsets, with the Madrid altitude and the slow, clay-humbling players left and right. But even in that context, even with all the chaos, nobody saw Baptiste beating Sabalenka as something in the realm of possibility. That is what makes it so remarkable. And after that stunning quarterfinal victory, Baptiste stepped forward into her first ever WTA 1000 semifinal, where she faced world #8 Mira Andreeva, the young Russian prodigy who has been one of the most talked about players in women's tennis over the past 2 years. Andreeva had reached the Madrid semifinal by defeating Leylah Fernandez, and she presented a completely different challenge to the one Baptiste had just overcome. Before the match, Baptiste was asked about the task ahead, and she said something that should make every tennis fan love her immediately. "Somebody else that I played before and lost to. A little bit of a revenge tour, I guess. I'm looking to go out there and play my game again and get another win. A revenge tour. That is the energy. That is the mindset that beats the world #1 from 6 match points down." Now let's step back and think about what all of this means for the bigger picture, because the context here matters enormously. We are in the heart of clay season. Roland Garros, the French Open, the biggest clay court major in tennis, begins in late May. Every match being played right now, every ranking point being earned, every confidence boost being accumulated, it all feeds directly into what happens in Paris. And what Hailey Baptiste has just demonstrated in Madrid is that she has both the game and the temperament to compete seriously on clay at the highest level. She has the serve. She has the forehand. She has the movement. And crucially, she has the mental toughness to stay composed when the moment is the biggest it has ever been in her career. For Sabalenka, losing in Madrid is a stumble, but not a collapse. She remains world #1. She remains the overwhelming favorite for Roland Garros. Her season record coming into this week was 26-2, and one of those 2 losses was to Aryna Sabalenka in the Australian Open final. Hardly a disgrace. But the loss to Baptiste from 6 match points up is the kind of thing that enters a player's head whether they want it to or not. When you have the world at your feet, when you are one swing away from closing out a straightforward quarterfinal win, and the match slips through your fingers, that is a thing that stays with you. Sabalenka is a champion who has been in these situations before and responded brilliantly, so nobody should count her out for a second. But the clay season just got a lot more interesting than it was a week ago. Baptiste's ranking will now climb dramatically. Reaching a WTA 1000 semifinal guarantees her a jump into the top 25, and if she wins the title, it could push her as high as 15th in the world. But rankings aside, what she has earned from this week is something more valuable and less easily measured. The knowledge, proven through the most difficult test imaginable, that she belongs. That this is her level. That the world number one, the four-time Grand Slam champion, the most dominant player on the WTA Tour, can be beaten by her. With a clear game plan and brave tennis and the heart to save 6 match points on the biggest stage she has ever competed on. Think about what Hailey Baptiste's story represents for the next generation watching. A girl from D.C., raised by Haitian-American parents, who grew up watching Venus and Serena Williams as her heroes, who ground through years of qualifiers and challengers and heartbreaking early exits, who studied her opponent obsessively after a loss in Miami, who walked back onto that court a few weeks later and made history. She became the second American to defeat the world number one at the Madrid Open. The first was Serena Williams. That is the company she is now in, at least in Madrid's history books, and that is not a sentence that would have made any sense to write before Tuesday night. She told Tennis Channel after the match, "I've been close to these moments and I've been able to kind of smell it." And that is the line that will define this chapter of her career. She could smell the moment coming. She just needed the moment to actually arrive. And when it did, in the Caja Mágica at the Madrid Open, against the most fearsome competitor on the women's tour, Hailey Baptiste did not blink. She fired a forehand winner to end the match. She turned to the crowd, and the magic box roared. The clay season is alive. Roland Garros is coming. And there is a new name you need to know if you do not already. Hailey Baptiste, Washington, D.C., 24 years old. World number 32, for now. Because something tells us that number is about to change very quickly. This is Champions Tennisistics, and this is what we live for. If you are as fired up about this Hailey Baptiste story as we are, smash that like button right now because it genuinely helps us bring you more of this content. Drop a comment below. Do you think Baptiste can go deep at Roland Garros? Can she win it? And what does this mean for Sabalenka's grip on the number one ranking? We want to hear everything you think. Make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell so you never miss a single video, because we cover every angle of professional tennis with the passion and the drama this sport deserves. Champions Tennisistics, we will see you in the next one.
Hailey Baptiste did what? She saved 6 match points and took down world number one Aryna Sabalenka in Madrid. On April 28th, the 24-year-old American faced.
Obviously incredible being world number one. Played her a few weeks ago and lost, and I told myself that I felt like I could win the match, and to